The following video is spoiler-free. However, there will be a spoiler section later in the video that you can skip if you have not seen the movie yet. Unfortunately, I did not like Weathering with You as much as Your Name, but it's still pretty good. For those who don't know, Weathering with You is a Japanese animated film by Makoto Shinkai about a boy, Hodaka Morishima, who runs away from his family and meets a girl named Hina Amano, who can seemingly control the weather. Shinkai's films have grown in popularity, but with the increased recognition comes more films, more viewers, and also more romances, which are the plot lines that Shinkai is most known for. Though I have only personally seen two of his films, Your Name and Weathering with You, his focus on romance and passion is a rather intriguing and compelling common thread, especially considering the more popular romances. Though the romance and the chemistry between the two characters is one of the core aspects of the film, the most compelling part of Weathering with You is, without a doubt, the animation. The animation for the movie is fantastic, which is surprising for me because the style that Shinkai implements sounds horrible. He chooses a blend between CG animated backgrounds and 2D animated characters. The style is very common to many other Japanese animation, but typically the two styles don't mix, creating an abhorrent mess on screen because of the two diverging animation styles. An example of poor implementation of the aforementioned blend is Persona 5's animated cutscenes. They use 2D drawn characters, but then implement CG backgrounds or objects. The characters' movements are all awkward, which doesn't help, but the characters feel out of place in the backgrounds. The characters almost float in a void, lacking energy or any effect on the environment. In contrast, Shinkai's animation style is vibrant and alive. Characters interact with the background, and the character movements are all natural, which creates a more human element. The human element is integral to movies such as Weathering with You, since the romance and human connection is the central part of the narrative. Fortunately, Shinkai executes a surprisingly beautiful blend of 2D and CG animation in Weathering with You. Despite the breathtaking animation, Weathering with You stumbles with its characters, which feel lackluster compared to the complexity found in Your Name. The protagonist of the story, Hodaka Morishima, is one of the weaker characters of the story because of lacking personality and underdeveloped chemistry. His personality tends to fit the mold of the story. It doesn't have many defined characteristics, but the little character he receives caused frustration, at least for me, because the characterization causes him to make ill-informed decisions that aren't entirely believable. Another disappointing part for the movie is the underdeveloped chemistry between Hodaka and Hina. The movie delegates little time to the romance, despite the chemistry being the driving force behind the rest of the movie. The romance between Hodaka and Hina grows through the course of a few infrequent encounters and then a montage. The film doesn't provide any other screen time to fostering the relationship between the two characters other than the segments I mentioned before, which isn't enough time to develop a romantic relationship among the two characters. The situation is similar to this hypothetical. If a likable character and I met, and then met again, and then spent a montage worth of time together, would it be weird if I wanted to date said likable character? Yes. The answer is yes. Additionally, since the film utilizes the previously developed romance as motivation for Hodaka during the rest of the film, his motivations seem illogical because the proper time wasn't given to his relationship. In contrast, there are also characters such as Keisuke Suga, who is a fully developed, compelling, charismatic character throughout the whole movie. His motives are developed, his personality is defined, and, not to mention, charismatic. Plus, his character arc and chemistry with the other characters are actually compelling, whereas Hodaka lacks substantial development, and he just continues to stumble and make more unreasonable choices. I know the purpose is to evoke feelings of romanticism, where people accomplish goals through sheer will and passion alone, but it doesn't develop the element of romanticism in Hodaka's character, at least not as much as it should. One aspect of Shinkai's films, however, that does integrate romanticism in a fitting manner is the music. The music in Weathering With You, just like your name, is fantastic. It blends elements of mysticism and passion into the music and its lyrics, creating a wonderful aesthetic in the soundtrack. Weathering With You brought back the same team from Your Name to create the music for this film, which I think was a perfect choice. The musical aesthetic that Radwimps creates evokes the romantic elements of the movie perfectly. The aesthetics convey extreme passion and tragedy, which encapsulate the core of the film. The music also benefits from the well-integrated leitmotifs throughout, which just enhance the wonderful music from Radwimps. Unfortunately, that is all I can say without spoiling the movie. So skip to the time on screen if you do not want to be spoiled. If you don't click away, I will show a spoiler in 3, 2, 1. Now that's a thick cat. I promise I won't take too long with this, but there are a few complaints I had about my theater in particular. So I saw the movie at an AMC theater, and the aspect ratio for the theater was completely wrong. I didn't think it would affect the movie too much, but oh boy was I wrong. Whenever the movie had lyrical music, half of the translation was cut off, so you could only see half of the translation if there were 2 lines. The theater also fumbled with the exclusive interview after the movie with Shinkai. Half of the subtitles were cut off again, so the same problem with the music subtitles occurred here. Thankfully, the subtitles for character dialogue were spared, but that would have been a nightmare if they weren't. One other part that irked me was the appearance of Mitsuha and Taki from Your Name. I thought it would have been fine if the characters appeared in the movie very briefly, but the movie treats these characters like a big reveal. Mitsuha's face is covered by the sign for a little bit to build anticipation for an obvious and also insignificant reveal. Taki, thankfully, is only in the film for one scene, as far as I can remember, but they also treat him like a big reveal, so his appearance is still frustrating. As much as I like Your Name, these 2 characters serve no purpose in this film, and they only remind you of a better film you could be watching instead of this one. Another smaller problem I have with the movie is the use of narration, because it doesn't really add any substance to the story. Most of the narration comes from Hodaka. His commentary frequently elaborates on the weather and its significance in the story, but it really isn't necessary. The main purpose of the narration is to mystify the weather, but the film already does this within the opening, where Hina falls through the other world, seeing the beautiful mystic vistas. The introduction to the other world already characterizes the weather as mysterious, and the narration then is just superfluous. It doesn't have a place in the film. I think the narration at the beginning was fine, however, since it was able to provide some context for the viewer. I think Shinkai should have removed a lot of the narration in the film, and the removal would have made for a better film that actually respects the viewer's intelligence, instead of adding unnecessary material. Okay, the spoilers are over. Now, if you are considering whether or not you should watch Weathering With You, then I would definitely encourage you to see the film. Though it stumbles in some areas like characterization, at least for some characters, the movie is still beautiful to watch and hear. The beauty Shinkai captures about romance and passion is frankly unparalleled. I hope he continues making more movies, though maybe he should distance himself from the wild success of Your Name. Anyway, this film gets a 7 out of 10. It's still a good movie, and I would recommend you watch it if you can. If you've already missed a screening near your city, then watch the movie when it inevitably releases digitally. Thank you very much for watching the video. If you want to see what I think of more films that I don't talk about on this channel, consider following me on Letterboxd. It's a great way to see what I'm watching since I'm very active there. Anyway, I may be cynical, but I wish you the very best.